The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the January 2015 LHI Monthly Developer Support Call. Thanks for joining us. This is Miranda Migueli. I'm the LawHelp Interactive Program Coordinator. Here with me today is Claudia Johnson, LHI's Program Manager, as well as Mark Lauritsen of Capstone Practice Systems, and I'm excited to announce our guest panelist today, John Greacen. If we could go to the next slide. So just a quick reminder that today's call will be recorded, and the materials and the recording of this call will be made available in the Resource Center at the link displayed on the screen, and I'll also be adding links to the chat box momentarily. And the next slide will show our agenda for today. So we'll start off with a high-level review and discussion of LHI Q4 2014 stats. We'll talk about the relaunch of the LHI rebuild testing environment called CommunityQA, and we'll also look at upcoming training and conference opportunities. We'll debrief a bit about the TIG conference and discuss funding opportunities, and we've set aside some time at the end of the call for questions, comments, and discussion. So in terms of conferences and trainings, LHI recently completed its live developer training in San Antonio, Texas. We had a pretty geographically diverse group of attendees, with people coming from Guam, Louisiana, Puerto Rico, Nebraska, and Virginia. Our next training will take place this fall and will be in online mode, so please stay tuned for more details on that. We also wanted to highlight an upcoming training opportunity on unbundling legal services with a focus on family law. It's a free program offered by PLI, and we'll share the link for more information about that in the chat box in a bit. We'll also share a link for February's monthly call, which will be technical, and Capstone will be covering techniques on managing unanswered and same answeredness. So we'll share more information about that, but basically it's going to be really helpful in thinking about how to develop user-friendly and efficient interviews. So we hope you can join that call. That'll be February 24th. And also registration is open for the Equal Justice Conference taking place in Austin, Texas. I'll be attending along with some other PBN staff, so hope to see many of you there. So that's our updates on conferences, and just again, LHI stats will be posted today in the Resource Center and the link displayed, and I'll be sharing that in the chat box in a moment. So feel free to contact myself at mwatkins@probono.net or Claudia with questions about the stats. Just wanted to share some high-level information. There's been over 922,000 interviews and over 509,000 documents assembled in 2014 using LHI-powered forums. That's really exciting. It means that since 2005, LHI and its partners have served over 4.1 million interviews and generated over 2.3 million documents. So the next screen is just a graph showing growth of assemblies and interviews since 2005, so you can see sort of the steady increase each year. And this next slide is just some more basic high-level information about our stats. So we are assembling about 1,300 documents per day through LHI, and they're not just documents for legal court cases. There's also letters to administrative agencies, self-help calculators, etc. We have introduced over the past 6 months some new reports by account type. So we're able to see what a lot of folks have suspected, that most of our users are anonymous self-helpers, but we have a growing number of advocates using LHI on a regular basis. About 15% of all LHI use is advocate-driven. And 22% of all assemblies are for self-help accounts. Another report added recently is a by length of interview report, so hopefully this is helpful to our partners to get a sense how long users are spending in each particular interview before assembling a document or form. So just some examples: child support enforcement package for advocates. The average length of time in that report in December was 19 minutes. The dissolution of marriage packet advocate, 24 minutes. So you can go in and look at your templates and interviews and get a sense of the average time users are spending in your interviews, and please feel free to give us feedback on these reports. So the top 5 states and assemblies are New York, California, Michigan, Illinois, and Texas. And there's a question in the chat box, so I'll just look at that. A comment. Okay, those averages are amazing. Yes, we're very excited about those averages as well, and hopefully partners find that information useful. And then the next screen covers top 5 states and percentage growth. So the top state is Maine. There's also growth in Florida, Guam, North Carolina, Michigan, and Hawaii. So these are by percentages. And really excited to see that growth in these states and in all the states that are working on LHI forms. So next we want to talk a bit about rebuild and partner testing, and encourage you to test now that we've formally reopened CommunityQA. We've circulated some known major issues in our announcement that we were relaunching partner testing. So folks have been frustrated by and reported missing get document button issues when testing in the initial round. So we're aware that this is still an issue, and your reports about this issue will help us to further troubleshoot. Our longer known and fixed issues list is available as a bottom link at the bottom of the testing environment, so we'll be updating that on a regular basis. And again, just asking for your feedback on the testing process, what would be more helpful from us. Encourage you to test over the next few weeks through February 6th, and let us know how it's going so far this week. And we can discuss that a little bit more at the end of the call. Folks have feedback that they want to provide verbally. So those are my quick updates, and want to turn things over to Claudia.
Okay, thank you, Miranda. So I wanted to give a little brief update on the TIG conference this year for those of you who were not able to join us in person. Couple things that kind of were really noticeable this year, and any of the other panelists, because all of them were at the conference, feel free to chime in with other impressions. One is it was really well attended. San Antonio was really cold, and it was really fun, and it was just a really diverse group of people with a lot of really fun, important, and new concepts on how to use technology to promote access to justice. So it was really great. There is an LSC Twitter. If you want to, I generally like to review those two things that I can go, because it kind of lets you know what was going on. And many people on the call were tweeting and contributing to that, so it's a way to kind of participate even if you're not there, and even if the event is over, you can check it out and see what people are thinking after the fact, etc. So check out the Twitter for LSC TIG. There were a lot of new things kind of coming up. Most noticeably to me were that there was a more significant data track, a more significant mobile track, and for the first time we had a lunch session where we had some exposure to some of the international A to J, access to justice efforts that are going on in other places. It was really neat and kind of new and innovative. The other thing is that the SRLN was very supportive and active and participated. They also had a morning session, and that was not new, but it was just really nice to see the integration between courts, access to justice, self-represented, advocate tools, and the whole kind of technology in the legal nonprofit arena. In terms of workshops, Miranda and I were privileged to be able to work on 4 workshops, and these were some of them, like the gender and cultural identity workshop included now an element of disability, how to design technology for different communities. And so we had Sheila Fisher and Xander from Pro Bono Net, Sheila from Pennsylvania, and then we had Tali, who has been working on the OMSTEM website with an eye towards disability design of technology tools. And then Miranda talked about the racial and cultural identity aspects of designing technology. That workshop had a lot of buzz after the workshop, so that was really neat. We did one with Mark Lauritsen and then Josh Goodwin and Sheila Fisher, showcasing how automated online forms can be very powerful in producing very nice and helpful advocate-type pleading forms for people who are practicing law. So that was a workshop that was well received too, and it was open people's eyes to the possibilities of what online forms can do in the advocate realm. The other part that was really fun is that, inspired by some of the work in Oklahoma and South Carolina, where they have been doing videos for online form users, and Kate Frank from Connecticut, Margaret Hamlet from Oklahoma led a workshop on videos, how to create videos, how to design videos, an 8-step process in designing videos that was led by Josh Gunn from Planet Nutshell. And so Miranda the video was about that. Miranda, we wanted to show a little clip of the video, and hopefully the sound will come through. Miranda, I'm going to switch to you to the video. And that workshop was really fun. We highlighted ShareLaw video and other resources that legal aid groups and courts can use to not reinvent the wheel and do it on a budget if they need to. So the sound is not coming through, but this is only a minute and a half, and it's an amazing graphical description on how people in Oklahoma can use the multiple online form collections there and using animation that was very carefully thought out. And so this one just gives you an idea of what a minute and a half can do in terms of explaining not just the legal process, but how to use the forms to help yourself. So we're going to post the video. It's on Vimeo. We're going to share it in a little bit on the chat box. But we encourage you to think about videos as a way to make and surface out your collections in your statewide web pages, which is what the video is doing right now. It's basically showing kind of like a simplified graph of Oklahoma law, which is the statewide website there, and how people can find the forms and use them, that kind of thing. So thank you, Miranda. I'm going to flip it back to myself here. And then we had an online intake one where we were more talking about the difference between online intake and triage, and the concept of online intake bringing more than just people to legal aid. And instead of talking about more clients, talking about the right kind of cases, and then the time savings and the ability to spend more time lawyering as opposed to, sorting through cases and saying no, instead of saying no, saying yes more often. So that was a fun workshop with Joan Kleinberg and Cheryl Nolan and Brecky Hayes. And so we're going to post all of the materials here. There was a lot more content, and all of that is going to be posted by LSC. So we are going to move now to the funding opportunities, and I do want to give some time to John to talk about the Title 4D ones. Just wanted to highlight that these funding opportunities really encourage collaboration between legal aid and courts. So although maybe one of the groups has to be the primary submitter and grantee, the reality is that the funding streams do encourage collaboration and partnership. So that's one reason why I wanted to highlight this now. Some of them have upcoming deadlines, and a lot of court collaboration and legal aid partnership has already happened. So if you don't want to spend a lot of time and you just kind of want to really quickly see what has been done, what is out there, what is potentially replicable, and may be helpful in your environment, feel free to reach out to Miranda or me, and we can kind of help you kind of weed through what may be things that, depending on the type of issue you're trying to address, could be perhaps replicable or adaptable to what you're trying to do in terms of these different flavors of grants. So there are mainly four. The first one, just wanted to flag, is the Pro Bono Innovation Funds. There is a webinar coming up on Monday, next Monday, where LSC is going to walk through the grant and what they want. I encourage everyone who's potentially interested to partner or to lead a grant to join the webinar. And then if anybody wants to think about what role online forms can play on pro bono type workflows, reach out to us and we can show you what some people are doing really effectively, and then think from there what may be good for you. The other one is the TIG funding cycle. We got word at the conference that the LOIs are going to be on 3/15, so never too early to start planning for that process. And now I'm going to be quiet and let John talk about the DHHS Title 4D grants.
Thank you, Claudia. The 4D program is the one that collects and distributes child support, and the cases that are denominated 4D cases are cases that the state child support enforcement agency has in their records, that in which they have a case opened where they are helping people either obtain a child support award or a paternity determination or to collect child support. So 4D, one of the reasons the 4D program was set up was to collect from non-custodial spouses to offset the costs of public welfare benefits, but that is not the definition of 4D cases. For a long time, the federal 4D program has encouraged its local state programs to enter into cooperative agreements with courts or prosecutors or other entities to provide assistance to people seeking paternity and child support orders or the enforcement of those orders. And when there is a cooperative agreement in place, the 4D agency will reimburse 2/3 of the qualifying costs incurred pursuant to the cooperative agreement. So this is a lot of money for assistance to people trying to obtain paternity and child support orders or enforcement. In California, this was the basis for the original creation of the Family Law Facilitator Program. Excuse me. And the support was in California originally limited to the types of matters that could be reimbursed through the 4D program. The courts were so impressed with the assistance that was provided, not just to the litigants but to the courts themselves, that they began supplementing the funding so that the family law facilitators and self-help centers could cover at least all family law matters and not just be limited to those that could be supported or reimbursed through the 4D program. The additional third that is not reimbursed has to come from usually from the agency that is providing the services. But if you are providing these services and can get a cooperative agreement in place, you will immediately have more money available to expand your program into other areas. There are significant accounting processes that have to be in place to ensure that the reimbursed costs are only those that are allowed under the program. And no one is entitled to this kind of reimbursement. It has to be negotiated on a case-by-case basis with the State Child Support Enforcement Authority and put into a cooperative agreement. Are there any questions about that?
John, let's hold the questions because we're almost done. I'm showing that we'll hold them and then we'll unmute people because our attendees are all muted. Just wanted to say that I'm showing the place from the National Center for State Courts. That's the link where you can download the full PDF if you want to learn and read a little bit more about this. And I did want to flag that couple groups working on online forms have worked cooperatively with their parenting agencies or core agencies. And South Carolina did a really amazing project on child support calculators a couple years ago. So we have a write-up that we can send to people or distribute through the list. Kentucky actually, Legal Aid Assistance of Louisville, did this in around 2008 when this was just a pilot. This started initially, I believe, John, you may know more of the history, but the first time I saw this funding stream was with the president when the recession was on 08. It was one of the presidential kind of funding streams. And so this started out as a pilot, and it was done 2 years. It skipped 1 year. And so Kentucky got in and developed child support videos and modules for LHI, and they were really successful. And then South Carolina got in on the second round. And so this is a really nice example of collaboration between courts and legal aid. So if people want to check it out, really encourage you to take a look at that. The last, and John, you may know also about this one, the SJI funding stream. This is a funding stream that is specific for courts, that is allocated by Congress, and it's done every quarter. They are already making funding decisions, and part of the funding can be technical assistance. As part of it, and then their project grants, and then their big initiative grants. You can go in and look at what they're funding, and if you're working with a court, you may be able to work together on technical assistance for technology for access to justice, for example. So the next quarter is in February 1st, and that may be too soon to develop a whole approach, but it's something that maybe your court is not thinking about or your Access to Justice Commission is not thinking about, and you may want to kind of check it out and see if it's something that you want to reach out to your court contacts to see if this is something that could be of interest. Even if it's not a project grant, maybe you can do a technical assistance that courts can reach out to the National Center for State Court and you know, start kind of exploring on potential opportunities. I know a lot of people have visited the New York courts and the Los Angeles courts to see the LHI online form installations there, and you know, things like that, just to build capacity within the court and access to justice community. So that's it in terms of funding opportunities. I'll stop now and just will unmute people if people want to raise their hand and ask any questions to any of the panelists, or Mark or Miranda, if you want to add or say anything else about any of this or the conference, etc.
Just if folks don't have mics, feel free to type a question in the question box as well.
Okay. So anyone want to raise their hand that want to be unmuted?
Claudia did show you the link to the resource guide that is posted on the National Center website, which gives a lot more information about this 4D reimbursement process. There also have been very recently a notice of proposed rulemaking posted by the HHS, which makes a few changes, proposes a few changes to the program that would expand the opportunity for funding to include consensual parenting plans, and it strongly encourages the use of non-adversarial dispute resolution processes. So those are additional possible reimbursable activities under this proposed new notice of proposed rulemaking. We have no idea when these provisions would go into effect if they are adopted in the final rule.
Yeah, and just for those of you who have access to our portal, California has very robust family mediation forms, and one of them is the custody visitation agreement that is done on voluntary orientations, etc. So if anybody kind of wants to see what that is looking like in California, it's on the developer template portal, and it is pretty high volume use in like some of the southern counties like San Diego, etc. It's one of the ones that is being used by courts to come up with you know, custody and parenting time type agreements. Okay. Nobody wants to comment or raise their hand. It could be about the rebuild. It can be about anything we covered, the TIG, or I saw that the question about the TIG LOIs at the TIG conference, they had said it was going to be in March and the full applications in April. So that timeline is coming up. But
I see some question marks, Claudia.
Okay.
In the attending list, there's some.
Okay. Our public is.
Oh, Claudia, I do have a couple of other examples of legal services taking advantage of the 4D reimbursement in Texas. There are a couple of programs where legal services is providing assistance directly to the paternity and child support litigants and getting reimbursed.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Randy Chapman, for flagging that one. I'll add it to the list of the ones to encourage people to look at as a potential model. We did get a question as how we know what type of users are assembling documents. And what we're doing is we're doing reports by account type. So if the person is using an account type, we are able to produce very general number of sessions and number of assemblies by account type. So we track for anonymous, which means no account, advocates, template developers, self-helpers, and then court staff goes generally under advocate accounts. So it's really a report by account type. We have no way of making sure that the person that requests an advocate account is really an advocate. We don't get to that level of checking. So we take the word that if they're requesting an LHI advocate account, they're really using LHI as an advocate. The only ones that we vet are the template developers because we do limit access to who can upload or use the contributor portal to make sure LHI has quality materials in it, you know, and the forms that are uploaded are tested and really functional. So the only ones that for sure we know are through template developers are the ones that we approve by hand.
The other side of that is that we might be in fact underreporting advocates. So if advocates are using the anonymous or self-help or workflow, we're not able to capture that through our data. So I think that is helpful to think about in evaluating those numbers. They're not perfect and they might be underreported. Another report that we've recently released is a template language inventory report, where we're reporting on how many pieces of content are in Spanish, for instance. But those are only as reliable as the metadata pages are. So if there's Spanish content not marked as Spanish, then that affects sort of the reliability of that report.
So not to beat a dead horse, but piggybacking on what Miranda said, for example, the 22% assemblies for self-help accounts, those are probably totally underreporting the self-help use, because people generally only create accounts when they need to save the answer file and come back and edit. Most users that can do an assembly without saving and coming back probably are not creating accounts, and that probably explains the 61% of assemblies being by anonymous users, people without accounts. I think that this data may become more important as you design and test your interviews depending on the audience. It could be helpful, for example, to say in funding reports or in funding proposals, it generally takes our lawyer 4 hours to create a package that has all of these documents before, and then after you introduce technology, that went down to this much, which means that the difference went to doing, Supreme Court cases, appeals, or more high-level legal advocacy work. So that's a way that I think this data could eventually become helpful and useful. And we would be happy to learn from you how you're using the data and how the data could be made better, so that you can think about, these things that we're trying to get out to you, make them relevant to your projects and the management of your projects. Anything else that anybody wants to add?
Looks like Mike has his hand up, so I'm just going to take him off of mute.
Okay.
Hi, Mike.
Hi. I was just curious about one of the outstanding issues that we've reported and that you said is still a problem with launching some A2J interviews, where we get that screen that looks like it's launching, but then it's not really launching. I've run into that in several instances, and I noticed that was still an issue with the rebuild server. So I really don't want to go back and retest if the same issues are still a problem. So I was just curious what your plan is for resolving that, since we're talking about first week of February. Is that going to be fixed? Are you going to let us know when that's taken care of so we can go back in? I don't want to go back and test again if I'm just going to have the same problems.
Right. I mean, I think that's a fair position, and we are going to notify the list when those sort of major priority issues that cause us to suspend the initial round of testing are fully resolved. So we are in the process of addressing those issues, and we'll notify folks via the listserv, but also the known and fixed issues list when those things are resolved. But part of the decision to reopen CommunityQA was that in investigating it, the experiences that we're having internally with these same priority bugs are different than what our partners are reporting. So the partner testing showing how you're getting the issues, what are the sort of context for the issues, whether it be it happened once in 10 tests or it only happened in IE but not Mozilla, is really helpful for us to, resolve these things. So we understand that it's frustrating to encounter the same issues over and over again, but we're trying to resolve that in parallel, get more information from partners to help that process. And we do have a timeline in place, but if core functionality is not working, then we have to make adjustments to that, because we want the transition to the new system, of course, to be successful.
Yeah, and
Okay, thanks.
just something else is, there are other aspects of LHI that need to be tested and where we would need feedback. For example, right now, anyone that's going to be creating an advocate account is going to get a pull down that is going to ask them what organization they belong to. If your organizations in your state are not listed, it would be good for us to know now. I think we already made the request. Tell us what organizations need to be added to the pull down, because when we go live, if you go and do outreach and you get more advocates or you get more people working in self-help type workflows, and they go there and they don't see their account, who knows what they're going to do. They may not create an account, or they may create an account with a different agency. And all of these changes, are administrative in nature and don't go to the core, hey, we want to print a document. But these will be important as we start doing, hopefully, eventually more reports on by state, by organization, by account, those kind of things. So, there are account creation things that would be great to test and give us feedback on. There's also, sharing answers, and some of the other functionality that emailing, all the other stuff that LHI does for the community that is assumed functionality, and that doesn't involve assembling a document. It would be great to kind of get a glimpse of how that is working locally for you, and if there are organizations to add, or for example, let's say that in the find forms, the link to the web page where we're redirecting people to start from is outdated because you updated your statewide website page. Let us know now, so maybe we can change that link so that when we go live, we're linking to the best page where your online forms are. So those are, not as time-consuming as working through templates, but those would be really good to do now before we go live, so that we can do those changes as they, as we get the feedback. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay, well, that's it. And just a reminder that we are still doing the LHI National Survey. You can find the link in our main page. We have sent it to the list, and I can resend it again. This will help us evaluate how we did in 2014 with training and support to the community and helping you manage and grow your collections. So if you haven't given us feedback yet, please do so. And we're going to close this on the 31st of January and then use it for the final evaluation in 2014. And we thank everybody for joining us today, and particularly John and Greacen for jumping in at the last minute. That's really awesome. And everybody else for spending 42 minutes with us. Okay, thank you.
Thanks all.
Take care.
Thank you.